before you started Thrive, what type of blog did you originally have?
So I started blogging. It was for fun, a hobby blog, and literally anything and everything under the sun. So it was definitely like a lifestyle blog. I did crafts. I, for some reason, would do like, I'm like, oh, I can post my outfits. I mean, and it was like back in the day when we all were doing like, like the bauble necklaces, like the J. Crew bauble. Like, oh my gosh, I look back and it's hilarious. And so yeah, it was really anything and everything. There was, I mean, I started blogging back in 2011, and so at that point in time, it was purely just for fun to connect with community. And that's what it seemed like everybody was doing. There was no like niching down really, unless you were like a food blogger.
I kind of have a couple little side questions.
Yeah.
So what were some of your favorite things to blog about?
Oh my gosh. I loved anything crafts, like doing little DIYs for my house. So I had just gotten married in 2010. And so it was like making our house like fun and a home. So I loved doing little crafts. I mean, the chevron thing was in full effect, right? Like I remember doing like a cork board painted chevron, painting things, painting like furniture. And then I love to bake. And so I would also like throw in like little cupcake recipes and miniature raspberry pies. I mean, I mean, looking back on it, I had so much fun with it. I really, really did.
That sounds so much fun. I actually did something similar. I got married in 2012 and had started a blog and was the same thing. Like I painted this furniture. This is something that I made.
Yes, like everything goes. It's like this is my just online journal at this
Yeah,
point.
my diary. Yeah.
Yes.
So I have another side question. When you were in that phase, what were some bloggers that you kind of looked up to and were inspirational?
I'm trying to think of the ones that I know are still around, right? Because I mean, there were so many then too that was like, we're all friends. And I mean, we'll get back into it a little bit more into more of my story, but like, just a lot of like you and me, right? Like for hobby and for fun. But like ones that I loved and still love is like A Beautiful Mess. They were like my go-to. Elsie and Emma, obsessed with them. Um, and they kind of did all the things too, right? Like they did a lot of DIY. They also did like the fun fashion and stuff. Yes, just absolutely loved them. Meg O was a girl in Houston at the time, and it's so cool to see like her and even Dee Dee Rad of Dress Up Buttercup, like watching them. I know both of them, kind of like quote unquote grew up with them in Houston in the blogging world, and just seeing how far they've grown and how much they've done is just so incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean, just a side note too, like everything that you've done too is incredible. So,
Thank you.
so what was it like when you realized you were starting to experience success and you were growing your blog?
I feel like I didn't fully understand what was happening. So I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was hitting 20,000 page views a month and had no idea that that was a big deal. I was not making any money from it. I think I did one sponsored post for it was like Sharpie or something. And I didn't realize, what was going on. And that's, plays into a lot of what I do now is, education and helping bloggers, because I didn't realize what I had. And so it just required looking at, okay, what is everybody else doing? A lot of it back then was just like growing with community, and that's truly like the thread of everything in my career has been community, because it's because of my community that has gotten me to where I am today. It's because I have business besties and blogging friends, that's kept me doing what I'm doing. And that's what got me to, success back then, which I don't think was super successful, but it led to such an amazing career that I'm just so grateful that I randomly started a blog.
That's so cool. And I feel like that's so relatable. Like so many people started blogs around that time and
Yeah.
none of us knew what we were doing. We just
No.
saw people starting to make money from it and we're like, oh my gosh, can we do that too? From the get-go, when Sarah sent me your website, I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I didn't know that this was possible, that people can teach people how to become successful bloggers, because it can be so lonely in that beginning stage, when you're trying to get the community and the niche, like you mentioned, and all of that. So, at what point did you pivot from being a blogger to owning a company that teaches other people how to blog?
Yeah, so it was definitely like a long process. It wasn't something that happened overnight, but it was kind of, what I was saying with like, I didn't realize what I had. And it was like talking with other people. And it was those same type of conversations that you just mentioned. Like, we're seeing others making money, we're seeing that this is possible. And so it just came from us having local meetups, and talking to each other, and somebody saying, like, oh, well, Amazon wants me to go on Instagram and to take over their stories, which, I mean, this was back in 2014. So, like, this was all like brand new real estate. And she's like telling us how much she charged for it. And we were all like, oh, you should charge so much more, even at that point. And so it was like, just those moments of like, man, we need more people to tell us what to do. Like, we need others that are like seeing success, having opportunities to come and like teach us what to do. And so it was kind of at that point where I think a lot of like little conferences and different things for social media were starting to pop up. And in Texas, I didn't feel like there was one that was a super fun vibe for bloggers to go to. Like, there was a couple here and there, but it was like in a hotel conference room, and that was like literally it. There was nothing fun on the table. It was just like, here's a notebook and listen to these people. And I'm like, but bloggers are the most, like, some of the bloggers, creatives, like, we're the most creative people out there, right? Like, us and artists, like, we're out there being so creative and having fun. And we want to go to a conference that embodies that, right? We want something, an experience. And there wasn't really that in our area. And so I was like, well, let's do it. We could put a conference together. Why not? How hard can it be? And so that is how Thrive started. It was this need for education and seeing our friends and us just needing, like, we need resources. There's that also like female empowerment that comes with it as well, is like, I want you to see success. I don't want you to charge $600 for Amazon for you to go and do all this work for them. Like, Amazon, they've got so much money. Like, you should be charging way more than this. And so it came from that just desire to, like, we want you to see success. And like, we also don't know what to tell you. And I think that's been a huge part of it too, is just also recognizing, like, I don't have all the answers. And I've never built over the years this business saying, hey, I'm Bree, I have all the answers. Like, that is not the case, because as we know, like, there are so many different things that go into owning an online business, to running a brand, growing a brand, that it's not possible for me to be an expert in all the things. And so anyways, with the conference, that's how we started, was like, okay, let's do one conference, let's see what happens. And knew by the end of that day that we would do it again. We were like, this was incredible. It was a game changer for so many people that attended, and would come up to us and be like, oh my gosh, like, I like just all these aha moments and these moments of clarity and understanding, because people were sharing, here's what to do. And even looking back on some of the girls that attended that very first conference and where they are today is like it gives me goosebumps, and it just makes me just so grateful that I was able to be just a small part of their journey. And so, yeah, that's where things started to kind of change. And that's what Thrive was, for the next few years. It was just a once a year in-person conference. And it got to the point where it was like, we were having conversations online with other bloggers who were like, I wish I could have come. We kept it small intentionally. And so we never wanted it to be like a ginormous conference, because that's just a lot more work. And so kept it more boutique size, and just got to this point where it's like, we need education year round. We need to be able to provide resources in another way other than just an in-person conference.
Oh, that is so cool. Like, I love just that feeling that you're talking about, that like almost tingly feeling because you saw this need and you're able to fill that need and help people along the way. Like, what a beautiful mission to be passionate about, and so empowering for something that could be so alienating to go through, but to actually give that community to people, I think is so incredible.
It's been incredible. I mean, it's really been something like that gives life to me every single day. Just being able to pour into people and to be able to help them, achieve things and reach goals and bring in their own money on their own terms is just really awesome.
Yeah, I love how organically it happened too. Like, you just saw this need and it happened. And like you said, by the end of the day, you're like, we're going to do this again. It seems like when something is, aligned with you or for you, it just kind of falls into place. And that is such a beautiful part of the human journey. But
Yeah, no, it's so true.
so, in terms of overall growth, which apps would you say played the biggest role in both your short term and long term success?
Such a good question. So for me, it always comes to community. That's like the base of everything that we've done. And so for us, it started like with a Facebook group. Like that was our easiest way for us to connect with people that were coming to the conference. But then beyond that, that was really the way for us to be like, okay, this is an avenue that we can continue to help people. And so I know like a lot of people hate on Facebook and they're like, only my grandma's over there. But I am telling you, it has having a Facebook group. I mean, I challenge anybody. I'm like, unless you want to go to an app that you have to like pay for, there's not really another easy way for you to bring in a whole bunch of people and have them be able to ask questions, be able to collaborate with each other, be able to talk to each other, be able to even just the ones that are in the group that I know they're reading and they're not commenting, right? Because I can see the analytics on the back end and I'm like, okay, it says we have this many active people, but I'm not seeing their names at all. But I know they're there and I know that they're gaining information and even just knowing that there's a community there if they ever needed something. So I know I'm saying Facebook, but truly, like it has been a game changer for us. That and then, also like using Instagram to connect with our audience and then having a tool to use for email marketing. We love using Flowdesk. We also love that we're supporting another female owned business. And Martha and Rebecca over there are absolutely amazing individuals. And it's such a easy tool for bloggers, especially to use. Plus, it's like, it's so beautiful. And there's something fun about having an app that's just really pretty to use, right? Like Tailwind makes it so easy and clean and concise to use. And I feel like Flowdesk is doing the same thing. And I'm like, just give me all the tools that are easy and I know exactly where to click.
So are there any other apps that you would consider are non-negotiables for any business or blogger?
I really think that, especially in this day and age, you have to be on a platform that has video. I do think video at this point is kind of a non-negotiable if you're wanting to grow a blog or, social media. I think that you need a way to connect with your audience. Am I going to tell everybody that like you absolutely have to be on Instagram or TikTok or, anything like this? I don't think, there is a one specific answer for every single person because I have seen people that have had ginormous success using SEO and Pinterest alone and barely have a following on Instagram, right? And they're very successful bloggers. And then I've seen the opposite, right? Where I've seen people blow up on Instagram or TikTok and not really be doing a lot on their blog and doing too much on SEO. And so I just think though that having somewhere where you can connect with your audience is incredibly necessary. So whether that's Instagram, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Facebook and, doing lives, I think video is really important, posting videos over on Pinterest as well, using the idea pins. I think the bottom line is wherever you are, you have to be consistent. I think that's the non-negotiable, right? It's not an app, because I don't think there's one that I can say everybody has to be on this. But whatever you do choose to be on, I think consistency is something that is the non-negotiable.
Wow, that was so wise.
Oh my gosh.
You nailed it. Oh,
I'm also just speaking from things that, like, it's like telling myself this as well. And like that pep talk that I give myself every day, when you have so much on your plate, it's like, no, you have to keep going. You have to, like, you're working so hard to build this brand that it's like, you can't give up now. You can't not show up now for your audience. Like, they're subscribed, they're following all these things. They're telling you they want to see you. They want to see your content. And so showing up for them helps a bit with the consistency.
Oh, absolutely. It's like you're establishing that relationship, like you're saying, and it builds that trust with the audience. So I can absolutely see how that would be very crucial. So as you shifted from being a blogger to suddenly owning a business and becoming an entrepreneur, how did you learn to juggle all of those new hats? And
I
what were
mean,
what were some
no,
of
go
the
ahead.
struggles you experienced as you learned to juggle them?
I was gonna say, I didn't. I think, it is, I think of one of my girls that's in our coaching program, and she, I've shared this story a couple of times, but I'm like, it's so relatable, because we got on Zoom and we are having this coaching call, and she's like, I just want to ask everybody, like, how are you doing it all? Like, I am a mom and I am trying to like do all of these different things. And she listed off a few things and she's like, you guys are doing it all. How are you doing it? And while she's talking, my other girls in the program are all shaking their head. No, like, and they immediately unmute and they're like, we are not doing it all. And like, that is something I feel like is, especially in this industry where we are constantly online, constantly putting out content and consuming content, it is very easy for us to get overwhelmed and freeze very quickly, because it seems impossible to keep up, right? And it seems impossible that, like, how do I do all of this? How do I wear all the hats? How do I juggle all of the things? And that's something that I have dealt with. It's something I still deal with. I don't think this is something that ever goes away for entrepreneurs. I think there is always going to be that pressure of feeling like, oh, I need to be doing more, or I need to add this in, or I need to try this new thing. What I would, tell people too is, like, one thing I've had to check myself on is I have too often compared myself to others where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of at their level, or I should be at their level. And then I look and I'm like, oh, but they have a big team and they have a whole bunch of people over there doing everything with them. That's not the case for me right now, And so too often we're comparing ourselves to other people's journeys. And it's like, you have no idea what's going on in the back end. Like, you have no idea how much support they have. But then also, like, it just comes back to, like, we really can't do it all. And so we have to be very strategic with our time. We have to be very strategic with, like, what I am going to commit to, and, running with that for a little bit and being like, okay, how does this feel? Am I able to be consistent with it? Am I able to do it before we add on anything else? And I think especially anybody coming into it, I mean, new, or if you've been in it for a while, it's that constant evaluation of, like, what am I able to take on? What am I able to do? Anytime a new platform comes in, like, I feel like everybody right now is like, okay, I need to jump on TikTok. I need to try this, right? I didn't do it in 2020, but now I'm like, crap, it might be a non-negotiable. I need to try it. And so it's just being very real with yourself of, what am I able to do? Like, what is my capacity? I talk to my business friends all the time, and it's like, okay, at what point is enough enough? Like, of course, we want to keep growing. Of course, we have these milestones and these goals that we want to hit, but are we doing it to the detriment of, like, our lives are not what we're wanting to be living? And so anytime I have anybody join a new coaching program, that's one thing I ask them is, like, okay, cool. You're in this program with me for a year. What goals do we want to hit for your business in a year? But then what do you want your life to look like in a year? Because to me, that's why we're doing this in the first place, right? We're building these brands for freedom and flexibility in our lives. So many of them are telling me, like, oh, I want to be able to travel more. I want to be able to pay for my kids to come see me whenever they want. Like they have these lists of things that they want to do. And it's like, that's why we're doing it. We're not doing it for the clout and the fame, or at least we shouldn't be. Because at the end of the day, when you turn everything off, how is your life when you're at home? Sorry, that got really deep really quick.
Oh, it did, but like what beautiful vulnerability. And that's so like the advice is so grounded too. So I mean, you're just giving me great content, but like really, that was like beautiful and so vulnerable. And I can see how so many people could see themselves in that. I think it's so easy to see how, oh my gosh, these entrepreneurs on Instagram, like they've had so much success, they're making so
Yeah.
much money. I can do that. But most don't realize that, like you said, there's a whole team behind them.
Mhm.
Like most influencers now, they have a team or at least a virtual assistant who's,
Right.
responding to everything. And it can definitely be very overwhelming. And there's also this whole point that you get to where it's like, well, when do I hire out? When do I start like taking some of those hats off?
Right.
It's a dance, but I mean, I feel like working with somebody like you, a coach who could actually help you learn how to make those decisions or how to balance it all, or even just validate you and say, you don't have to do all of it. It's okay,
Yeah.
would just be so like freeing and healing and give people a better chance of making it because they're doing it from a place where they're not in survival mode. They're able to be realistic about it too.
Right. I think you hit the nail on the head there of like making it like not just like, oh, like I get to the certain point that I make it, but like staying in it, right? And not working super, super hard for a couple of years and then just being like, I just can't do it anymore. I'm miserable. And I mean, I've seen, unfortunately, like too many people that, we had a girl that spoke at our conference, extremely successful decor blogger. And she was just like, I just can't do it anymore. And she walked away from it completely. And I mean, I'm extremely passionate about mental health. And I just think that if there's anything I've learned over the last year, it's just how important our mindset and our mental game is when it comes to growing a business, whether it's a blogger, influencer, or anything, and staying in it. Because if we're not mentally healthy and happy, then it's going to react poorly to what we're doing. And also we'll hit that wall, right? We'll hit that burnout point faster than ever and just be like, it's not even worth it. I just can't do it. Social media, especially, I think there needs to be even more conversations about, content creators specifically and how we're taking care of ourselves because we're constantly consuming information. How are you taking care of yourselves and how are you reducing that pressure when you feel like, oh, I should be doing this because that's what they're doing, right? And that constant comparison of like, oh my gosh, they had a reel go viral and they just gained so many thousands of followers. I wish I could do that, you know? So it's like, how are you protecting yourself when those moments happen?
What beautiful advice. Like really, that's so great. I couldn't have like typed that any better myself. I mean, this is what you do for a living, so it makes sense.
I just hope whoever is listening, watching, reading, that it's helpful. And that, I mean, that's my goal. I mean, a lot of conversations I've had lately have ended up veering into that direction. Even if I was like, hey, let's have a conversation about, I don't know, Pinterest or Instagram or whatever. It somehow keeps veering that way. And that just tells me like more and more people are craving just that acknowledgement
Oh,
of mental health.
yeah, yeah, and just that like not being alone,
Yeah.
so many of us have experienced that and all of the pressure that there is and the
Yeah.
comparison. It can be a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
So why did you originally decide to sign up for Tailwind?
To reduce some of that pressure. I mean, to reduce overwhelm and to automate things. Truly. I mean, it's like, okay, cool. Here's a platform where I can take some of that pressure off of myself, where I don't have to constantly be manually doing all of the things. It is an incredible tool that just gives you so much more time back. And so, a lot of what I look at, for myself and for, anybody in our community is like, how much time do you actually have in a week? Like realistically, like what if are you doing this full time? Are you doing this part time? Okay, awesome. How can we get some of that time back and where can we strategically put our time? And having a tool like Tailwind is such a strategic way to use your time, right? Because you can schedule things, you can batch schedule things. I mean that's what it is. It's like how can you be a strategic business owner? And I think using a tool like Tailwind is a game changer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And kind of segueing perfectly into the next question. I mean, how has Tailwind benefited you in ways that other scheduling apps couldn't?
Yeah, it's really batching. Like batching is my jam. If any of my girls are listening, they know I'm obsessed with batching. And I just think, being able to sit down and do all of your scheduling once or twice a month rather than having to like go in weekly, go in daily and try to do things more manually. Being able to sit down and knock things out, mass scheduling without it taking hours and hours and hours to do. And I mean, you guys are constantly adding new features and like the design options now for pins and all of these different types of things just to keep helping everybody that's using it. I mean, that's what I love too about your company is you're like, you guys recognize like we're trying to save you guys time and help make your life easier. And that's what I just love about it is yeah, I love batching. I'm like, if I can sit down and do this once a month or twice a month rather than every single week, then that frees me up to do other things that are going to grow my business and make me more money.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. So do you have a specific Tailwind feature that is your favorite?
I mean, I can't say all of them because that's everybody's gonna be like, oh, that's boring. All of them. But also, I do love, okay, I mean, threading back through what we've been talking about, I love the communities. I just think that is such a cool feature. And I'm not seeing anybody else doing that. And I mean, that is like at the core of everything that I do is and why I am still in the blogging world and an entrepreneur to this day is because of community. And so when you guys introduced that feature, I was like, this is amazing. This is a game changer. Like we're in it with other people, right? Again, going back to like what you were saying of not feeling alone. Like, how can I help support you? And like, let's help each other to win. I just love that feature so much.
When you were talking earlier about communities, I was like, this is kind of like Tailwind communities.
Yes, it
Love
really,
that.
really is. Exactly.
What advice would you give to someone who's thinking about starting a blog today?
I would say to just start. So many times I get people like joining our Facebook group and we'll send a DM and welcome them in. And I'm like, tell me about your blog. And they're like, well, I haven't started yet. And I'm always like, okay, cool. Welcome to the community. When are you launching? Like, that's my next thing is like, when are you going to do it? And pushing them to like do it. I think what I'm learning is too often people are jumping into it and um, wanting to do a lot of research and wanting to feel like it has to be perfect before you start. Because again, kind of like tying everything in that we've been talking about is looking at what other people are doing and feeling like, well, if I'm going to do it, it's got to look like this. And you're like, cool, you're comparing somebody who's been in the blogging world for 10 years, has a team of 20 people working for them. Awesome. Let's compare ourselves to that. Instead, it's like, recognizing that when you join it is a journey. Blogging is not an overnight success. We like to think that it is and that there is like instantaneous success available because that's what these viral videos are telling us, right? These gurus that want to say, do this, and then you'll have a viral video. Like, and that's going to take off. And like for some people, yeah, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes something happens, but we cannot base starting a business on luck. Like you just can't. So if you want to go and have a blog, I don't think it's oversaturated. I think there is room for everyone. And I think you just have to start and go in with a mindset of I'm going to be consistent and I am going to keep growing day after day after day. And I'm going to just get a little bit better every day. I am not going to be an instant success. I know that this is going to take time, but I know that it's proven that just like with you, when you start working out or you start a new routine, right? I always want to like go to the gym and I'm like, oh, I lifted so heavy or I ran so far. I'm like, why can't I see a difference? Right. Like I go in the mirror and I'm like, oh man, I want to feel like my mindset is there. I'm like, so why don't I see a difference instantly? Right. It's that same type of thing where it's like, just because you started doing something doesn't mean you're going to see instant results. And since blogging kind of falls in that like social media marketing type of world, we just think that that's what's going to happen, which can lead to so many new bloggers being incredibly discouraged. I was just talking to somebody this morning. She's like, I'm 5 months in and I'm feeling discouraged. Like, what should I, like, what do you have any data to show like where I should be? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I'll tell you exactly what I told her. I'm like, no, I really don't, because it is completely different for everybody. And there are so many variables that go into it. I don't know how many blog posts you're releasing every single week. How often, how are you building your community? How are you, are you doing good SEO? Are you pinning on Pinterest with a good strategy? Like all of these, there's so many variables. And so again, like comparing yourself to other people, just put your blinders on, be consistent, keep showing up, keep doing it, and that's going to lead to success. And that was a very long-winded answer. I'm so sorry.
That was another amazing answer. You're doing me a favor by giving us amazing content.
I mean, you can tell I'm very passionate about what I do.
Oh, absolutely. I was just thinking too, about your podcast too, and how you just have such a like authority in your voice. Like you can, it really feels like you know what you're talking about. And it's so supportive and there's energy and passion behind it. Like you can just, I get that feeling like you're doing what you want to be doing. You're doing what you're here to do. And that is such a cool and inspiring thing to witness in somebody.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
good. It's very nice to hear. And I love the podcast, and it's so much fun for me. And one of my things always has been from the get-go, from the very first conference, was that we cannot have anything that is just fluff. Like we've all been to those type of conferences and listened to those type of podcasts where it's like, okay, that was fun and inspiring, but it gave me actually zero tools that I can use to implement. And I am your typical Enneagram 3 who likes to check off too many things. And I'm like, we don't have time for this. We got to just get it done. So try to pair that, type of like whenever anybody comes to our stuff, like I want you to be met with empathy and kindness and a community, but also like tactical things that are going to actually help you.
When you have a vision like that and this passion to actually help people and not just, resell what other people are saying, I feel like that's such a magnetic thing to experience or to put your energy towards, like it feels good. And I've been working on this interview I did with the founders of Tailwind, and they said the same thing. They're like, we started this company because we wanted to help people and we wanted to give them something that wasn't on the market. And I feel like there's just such a similar vibe from you and Thrive of just wanting to actually help people and give them tangible results to help them feel less alone and like they can accomplish it. And just what a great mission. So I'm really excited to be sharing.
Oh,
this
I'm
with
so, so glad. And I think the root of it too, and probably with them, is like it comes back down to like things that we needed, right? Like I needed community. Like I was at a time in my life where I needed friends, I needed people around me, I needed support, and then leading into like, we need more education. So I think too, like, the last second advice, but like, that's something too, whenever you're creating your content, is like looking at what you need and like whatever your niche is, like looking back a couple years, even been like, wow, what did I need at that point in time, wherever I was? Because there's probably so many people that are following you that need that advice that you think is just that is common to you right now, right? Like that comes easily, but how much of it is still needed for so many other people?
Oh, absolutely. So what's next for Thrive?
Oh my gosh. Well, we just started a new coaching program. So we have two different ones now. One's called the Profitable Blogger Society. That is for anybody that is newer and wanting to get a good foundation and grow. And we just launched our program called Shift, and that is for bloggers that are already like established, have already started to make money and are already starting to grow and are just ready to scale to the next level. So we're just, working on that and continuing to create content through our podcast and just different resources and education that we can share. This world is a constantly evolving machine. And so it's how can we take what's happening, digest it, and then give it to you guys so that way it's easy for you to learn and apply to what you're doing. So that's what we're up to.
Oh, that's so exciting. I love that. You're up to lots of exciting things. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
That you guys can do it. And that's, I'm sending you all virtual high fives and hugs. And I believe in you so, so much. And I want everybody to know that there's somebody out there cheering them on and in their corner. And if you need anybody, send me a DM. I've got your back.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Bree. It has been the biggest honor interviewing you. It's been so much fun. So thank you so, so much for coming and being part of our case studies.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this opportunity.